My name is Lynette Owens. I'm the Vice President of Global Consumer Education and the founder of Trend Micro's Internet Safety for Kids and Families program. And joining me is my colleague, Michael Draeger.
Yeah.
Michael's, yep.
Yeah, I'm a red team engineer. I've been with Trend for about 10 plus years now and been doing the program almost just as long.
Thank you, Michael. And again, I see there's more people just joining. Please sign in on the link that I just put there. And if you'd like to listen in Spanish or in Portuguese, please choose the globe icon to listen in Spanish or Portuguese. Awesome. So a couple of things. As you can tell from the chat, we have quite a number of people joining us today. And actually, this is the schools registered for tonight's event. So we welcome all of you. It's quite a big group here tonight. And we're very excited to spend this evening to discuss some really important topics. I think it goes without saying that a lot has changed over the last couple of years, but a lot of things didn't, even though it seems like more things changed than not. The first is that our children, when it comes to technology, still very much need our guidance. And because the risks to them are still there. And in fact, what we'll share later on this evening are even certain types of risks that might have become a little bit more acute over the last 2 years because of the pandemic. And then there are things that, really didn't change too much, but again, the risks still are there. But the benefits didn't change either. And maybe you even learned some new great ways. Maybe your children started to learn some new and great ways to use technology that they had not done before. But regardless, teaching our kids how to become good digital citizens is more paramount than ever. And when we talk about digital citizenship, what we mean is we definitely want to talk about safety. We want to talk about what the risks are and how to avoid them. That's a very, very important part of digital citizenship, but it doesn't stop there. It also includes digital literacy, digital and media literacy. So, for example, even if I teach my child the importance of protecting privacy on a social network, and even what kind of privacy could be at risk by using social networks, the next step is to teach them, well, how do I protect that? How do I find the privacy settings? How do I turn on two-factor authentication? Why are those things important? So just the how to actually do these things is important part of digital literacy as well. In addition to how we behave in online spaces for our own sake and also towards others and for the communities that we are gathering and using the internet for. So this is an important element of digital citizenship. Now, up to this point, you would say, well, very often when we talk to children about technology, it's a long list of what not to do. The things I should not do, you should not do. We have to remember that an important element of digital citizenship is also teaching them and role modeling for them the ways that they can and should be using technology to benefit themselves, others, and the world around them. So mastery is an important element of digital citizenship. And tonight, the way we're going to organize this conversation is in a very simple way to remember in these 4 buckets. The first is we need to help our children be online. It's no longer an option. They're being required to do this because of school. We know it's important for them to prepare for their futures. And frankly, during the pandemic, it was a have to. We had to use online spaces just to, continue things like school and keeping in touch with friends and family far away. But while they are there, we should help them to be safe, be kind, and be savvy. And under being online, what we're going to talk about is how to set up the right environment for our kids, set the rules, and set good examples. When we move into being safe, we will cover protecting privacy. What is privacy online? Protecting personal information and protecting yourself, your physical self as well. On being kind, we'll obviously talk about the importance of how you treat others, but also how to think about kindness directed to ourselves. Because very often, especially as children start to use social media more heavily, it can be difficult. There can be a lot of controversy, there could be drama, there could be other things that are causing kids to feel anxious or upset. And so we need to also talk about helping our children direct that kindness inward as well. And finally, being savvy is how do we teach good habits and encourage good uses. So the majority of tonight's session will be in the blue and the green parts, blue and the green buckets. We will obviously go through all of it, but just to set your expectations. So I'm going to hand it over to you, Michael. And for those just joining, if you're able to, just to remind you to put your questions in the Q&A and not in the chat, and to sign in if you haven't already, and then to choose the globe icon if you'd like to listen in Spanish or in Portuguese.
Thank you very much. So we're going to start off real quick here, just setting up the environment. The very first thing we're talking about setting up the environment is our physical health. And one of the most important things when we're online is our eyes. And we need to make sure that we have good lighting when we're sitting in front of our computer. And then also, those of us who spend hours and hours in front of the computer, pick up the, remember the 30-30 rule, which is basically every 30 minutes, look off about 30 feet or whatever for about 30 seconds. Give your eyes a rest from the screen. This is going to really reduce the amount of eye strain and fatigue that occurs. And then also invest into a pair of blue light glasses. There's been a lot of research behind blue light glasses, and it shows that by filtering out some of that blue light, it does reduce a lot of your strain, especially for those of us who spend many, many hours. The next thing is seating. Make sure that we have good posture when we are sitting. I'm guilty of it, and I know many of us are guilty of it, where we're just, after so many hours of sitting, you start slouching and you get tired and all that, and your back starts to hurt. So yeah, posture is very important. And then lastly is taking a break, getting up and move. Very easily you could find yourself just hours and hours just working, and then suddenly you have to get up and you're like, oh God, this hurts. So taking a few minute break every so often just to get the blood moving, get to clear your head and refocus yourself is a great thing.
And I would just add that in working with the Digital Wellness Lab, which is a lot of pediatricians at Children's Hospital, it's a research endeavor. Pediatricians this past 2 years have been seeing children more often than they did ever, complaining about eye strain, neck strain, headaches, back aches. So, we as parents really need to make sure that we're checking in on our kids. They get into strange contortionist positions on couches with iPads for very long hours. So we just need to really be on top of that. Teach good habits early on.
All right, so the next piece we're going to talk about is actually setting up the environment that's in your house. The very first piece of it is your router. This is those of you who don't know, your router is where the internet basically comes into the house. Some of the key things that you do need to remember to do is, if you bought a router, is one, change the password. Change the default password. The threat actors, cyber criminals, whatever you want to call them, hackers, know those default passwords and can leverage it. So change that default password. limit access to it. And if there are patches, get it updated. The next piece is set that a lot of your newer routers allow you to separate out your network. And this is really important, especially if you are a work from home person or you do a lot of your home finances and you have kids who game and do other things. You want to separate that stuff out and you put the kids and stuff on that guest network or your second network, and then you keep your work separate. And that this case, if something ever happens on the guest network, at least the stuff that you're working on is safe and protected. And lastly, and not lastly, the next piece is a lot of us rely heavily on our internal Wi-Fi networks and everything. And some of us, depending upon how your house is and the materials that your house is built out of, may find that Wi-Fi doesn't work in certain rooms. And to fix that is just to go out and buy they're relatively inexpensive now Wi-Fi extenders that allows you to expand the signal throughout your house and gives you better coverage. So this is a good investment if you have like dead spots in your house. The next piece is staggering your use time. And this is really, really important, especially of those who work and have kids who like to stream and stuff like that or game. It's like, okay, during this time period, this is for when I'm working. And during this time, this is when you should be doing your homework. And we don't do any streaming. And then then another period, you set up saying, hey, you can watch movies, stream videos or whatever at this time. And this allows you to basically share that limited internet connection. Some of us do have high speed, but it doesn't take much to suck it all down if you got multiple people doing movies and videos and songs. Then the next piece here, we're gonna just cover real quickly is a lot of our devices that we have built-in security features, software installed, whatever. Enable those features. Windows has firewalls that you can enable, antivirus you can get installed, get that stuff protected. Your cell phone has protections on it that you can enable to help protect the device. If you have the ability to enable a firewall, like I said, with Windows has a built-in firewall, go ahead and enable that firewall. A lot of your newer routers have firewalls that's going to allow you to limit what traffic come into the house and what traffic leaves the house. So it's basically saying, hey, I only want internet HTTP traffic or internet type traffic and stuff, but I don't want anything else in. The firewall will help block it. Next is use strong passwords. And when we say strong passwords, we're going to talk about password 123. We're talking passwords that are a phrase or something a little bit complex and much harder to break. And then also use different passwords for different accounts. The next piece is using multi-factor or two-factor authentication. A lot of your apps nowadays, a lot of your banking applications, even Windows supports two-factor authentication, which is basically your login plus you have to have like a code or something that gets sent to you. This is really important to help protect your accounts with this. We've gotten a number of times, you've heard in the news where people's accounts have been hacked or they've gotten their passwords stolen or they've whatever, their credentials were stolen and then their accounts were taken over. The two-factor is just another layer to help prevent them from taking over your account. Without it, they may have your password, but without that second code, they're not going to get into your account. So it just gives you another layer. And then lastly is using a VPN. A VPN is, it's not as important at home as it is if you're out on public Wi-Fi. So saying if you're sitting at Starbucks and you're on their Wi-Fi, a VPN will help encrypt that traffic and keep it secure. Because a threat actor or a person, as me, because I'm a red team engineer, I could sit at Starbucks, set up a Wi-Fi and start intercepting traffic. If you guys are using a VPN, I can't see that traffic. It's encrypted, so it protects that data stream. So VPNs are really important. There are a couple really good ones that you can go and purchase. NORAD is a good one. There's a few other ones. If you just search VPNs, you can find them.
Michael, just want to address a question that came in the Q&A since we're just on this section about separating networks, and it is, does that mean you need two different internet services?
No. What it does is it doesn't need two internet services. Many of your newer routers, if you go into the settings, and if you look up, and they'll tell you how to set up a guest network or a second network. And what it is actually two separate different IP addresses. I'm sorry?
Yeah. I would say channels is another.
Yeah, two separate channels, two separate IP addresses that are distinct. They do not communicate with each other, but they're using the same internet connection. So like here at my house, I have a work network, and then I have a guest network, and that work network is anything that's on that work network cannot see the guest network, and vice versa. So it basically is two separate networks isolated that's all controlled by the router on a single internet connection. So you guys are going to share it, but the router handles that separation for you. I hope that answers it. I know it's a bit technical.
I think that does. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And
I
there's
guess-
another question about the filtering content on YouTube. We'll talk about that in a minute, actually, Jessica. So we will address that later on today.
All right. Okay. So next piece of it is update. Today, ironically, is Patch Tuesday. And Windows and a lot of companies push out the latest patches. When they push them out, get them installed, because a lot of times there are many security fixes that are included in those, bug fixes and stuff that are very important to keep your devices safe. Same thing with your phones. Every so often you'll get an update notice saying that you got an update, you want to install it. Get that, update installed. And a lot of times those are going to be fixing some security bug or some security hole that was discovered that threat actors are using or hackers are using to basically get into the device and steal the information off of it. Back to the password thing is make sure your passwords are, like I said, complex. Using a phrase, something easy to remember, much like this is a kind of a funny one, where you might need to buy more toilet paper. As you can see, it's a very easy phrase to remember. All you need to know is the first letters, which ones you capitalize and which ones numbers. Another option that you could do here is basically take that entire phrase and push it all together without spaces. That would be a very hard password for someone to guess and take a very long time for a person to crack, but it's also very easy to remember. And then also change them often. I know a lot of us have a lot of different accounts, a lot of passwords. I use a password manager. Password managers, you can download one for free. One KeyPass is one. Our products, Maximum Security, if you ever look at our home security product called Maximum Security, there is a built-in password manager. And a lot of our devices now have password managers. And these are just a basically database that you can dump all your passwords in and keep them safe and only have to remember that one password. And then if you need, you just look it up. And then backup. Backup as often as you can. If you have important data that you want to keep safe, it's always a good idea to have like an external drive and dump everything to, or use that cloud storage like iCloud and stuff to keep those things safe, just in case the device gets stolen or something happens to the device, you can at least recover those files. All right, now when we're talking tech tools, a lot of our tech tools already have the stuff already built into it. You know, there's a lot of apps out there that can help you protect your, a lot of things that you could download, a lot of security solutions out there. However, a lot of the things that we have already have built-in tools. There's tools to help you deal with age-appropriate content, how to block purchases, monitor time online, monitor where they're doing, what they're doing. This is available on our routers. A lot of the routers have that. Our laptops and computers have that software. A lot of times you can talk to your ISP and they can start providing some of that information as well, or start blocking or controlling some content. There's a number of security software solutions out there that offer all these services as well. We have a number of products that do that. You look in the App Store, you can see a number of different security solutions that can help you secure, protect, or monitor your devices, and then as well as different sites and apps have built-in security solutions, and that's actually where we're going to be rolling into next on the, we're going to start covering some. Now this is just a high level, some of the key main apps here. We're going to start with the iOS screen time tool. This is on your Apple devices, so if you have an iPhone or iPad, this
Actually,
allows
let's
you.
can we ask everybody who
Sorry.
out there has kids using Apple devices? Just say yes in the chat. Are your kids using Apple devices? Let us know in the chat. We're gonna see who wins tonight between Apple and Android. Whoa. Okay. Oh wow, I just saw an iPod Touch. Those are still, wow. I still have my iPod Mini, which
Well, did you hear that Apple is discontinuing the iPod now?
then it's gonna be worth something. So I better like
They are
put it up on
officially
eBay. Maybe. Awesome. All right. Sorry about that, Michael.
No problem.
It's good to know.
Wow, look at that. Jeez. Um, Now this is a screen, basically iOS screen time. It's built into the Apple iOS or software that lets you monitor your screen time or your kids' screen time. It also allows you to set limits and also control what content they can access. And basically to get into it, you click on family and you go into, you build that out real quick.
Yep.
There we go. Go into the settings, and then what it's going to do is allow you to see how much time you've been using the device or your kids have been using the device. And actually that will email me. I get notified every Sunday on my iPad about my usage on it. And then down at the bottom, you'll see content privacy restrictions. If you click on that, that's actually going to take you into another screen that allows you to limit what kinds of content they can access.
Yep. So you just need to set up an iTunes account,
Yep.
an Apple account for your kids underneath yours in order to use this. So someone had asked in the Q&A, can you limit the amount of time your kids are on a phone? This is one way to simply use the device. It's already in there. You don't need to buy an extra kind of software to do this.
Yeah, all right. And then the next piece, and then I guess we could see how many people have Androids here. It looks like we got a number of Androids in there.
Who's using Android? Let us know in the chat. We got people raising their hands. Great.
Yeah, I am an avid Android fan.
Yeah. You know what, though? Here's another question. How many people are a hybrid home with both Android and Apple?
Right here.
I would say there's probably a lot more. Hybrid. Okay, awesome. We got some hybrids out there. Great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm telling you, do you actually think there'll be people who will only use one? I don't think so, right? You could be using a Ring, right? Doorbell or assistant from Amazon and so on. So yeah, I think we're all hybrids.
Yeah, very true. Very
Awesome.
true. I think you are right on that assumption in there. So Google has something similar for Android, like the Apple iOS software. It allows you to filter apps, limit screen time, track location of the child. So basically, it'll keep a running tally of where they've been with their phone. And this is all done under if you look under Google Family link, and if your device doesn't have it, you'll find it in the App Store. Then you can just download that software, and it'll allow you to enable all these features. Much same as you can with the iOS.
Yeah.
Now the next piece, and this is the YouTube question that came up, is they've actually, this is what, 2 years now or a year?
No, actually, they launched this just last fall. Yep.
This last fall. I mean, it's a new feature with YouTube, and it allows you to control the content of what your child can see. This goes all the way up to what, mid-teen, upper teens, as far as age.
I would say content. Yeah, all the way up to 17. So anything up to adult content, you can filter by different levels of maturity, which they call those three that you see there on the screen.
So your Explorer is going to be your younger kids. So this is going to it's going to filter out most of the stuff that's for you, and just show only stuff for the younger kids. Was it 9 and under, 10 and under, I believe?
Yeah, it's about 10 or 11. Yep.
Yeah, and then your Explorer mode is right in the middle. This is going to be your preteens. These are going to be content based for their interests and likes, and filtering out some of the older teenager stuff that they get. And then when you get to most of YouTube, that's, like we said, up to age 17. So they're going to get some more mature content, but it's not the adult content. It's going to filter out all of that stuff for you.
Yes. And to answer, just to close on the question that someone asked earlier, how good are these settings? And this would be true of any settings that filters content out. They are not 100% perfect, but they have done a much better job than if you didn't have it there. So, you know, none of these tools can take the place of you. You still need to have oversight. So we don't recommend setting things and then walking away. Use these tools, but use them as a trigger for conversations with your kids. You know, I noticed you're using a certain app a lot more lately. What's going on? You know, do we need to talk about that? Or, you know, why you want to set them to just explore more and not most of YouTube. Again, use that as a chance to have a conversation with your kids. They're not perfect, but they are much better than if you had nothing there, and they're pretty good.
Right. The next thing we're going to talk about real quick is TikTok, and I'm sure actually, how many of you allow your kids to use TikTok at this point?
Yes. Who said yes to TikTok? Heck no. We always, this is exactly, just so you know, there's a lot of families. This is exactly how it goes. More no's than yeses.
Yeah.
More like, yeah, no way, Jose. And then there's some that say, yes, it's fine, because some of you have older kids, right? Some of you said your oldest was 15 and older. So great. You know what? Regardless of the fact that a lot of us aren't ready for it, there's a lot of people using TikTok.
Yeah. Yeah, so there is a great feature built into TikTok now, and they've allows you some. It's called family pairing, and this requires you to have both devices. And basically, you get this installed on both devices. You would basically get your kids one and set it up, and basically mark this as the team device. And then you set yours up as a parent, and that gives you basically kind of some control over what they can see on TikTok, how long, and also limit who they can communicate on TikTok. So this is a nice way to help manage and monitor their activity when using TikTok. Because ultimately, when all said and done, we can tell them no. But you know, when they get older, they're gonna want to start using it because their friends are using it, or they're using it on, you know, somewhere. So we might as well at least let them try it, and then, you know, give them the tool. They give us the tools to help monitor and keep track, make sure that they're doing the good things online.
Yeah.
With it.
And then when they're old enough, you can remove this, you know, family pairing, and just off they go. But I tried this out. It's pretty good. You're mostly going to see very benign content. You know, your kids might be annoyed with that because they want to see other stuff, but you know, this is a way for you to ease yourself and them into the world of TikTok. So until the next app comes along and everyone forgets about TikTok and moves to the new app.
The new shiny toy.
The new app, right? Yes. Yeah. Yes. I'm happy to take this one, Michael, if you'd like. So Instagram, anybody ever heard of it? Just kidding. So I don't know how many of your kids are allowing your children to use social media right now, apps like Instagram or Snapchat. My guess is if you're not into TikTok yet, you might not be saying yes to Instagram or Snapchat yet. But it took them a while. You know that there was some high profile news about research that Facebook had about what Instagram was doing, the harm that it could do to young people. So in response to that, they finally, earlier this year, launched the setting called supervision. And in my opinion, if your child isn't using Instagram yet, I wish they had this when my kids were younger and I said yes to Instagram. This is a way for you to ease them into the experience, because you will be able to see a lot of things, you know, who they're following, who's following them. You could do things like setting screen time limits on the app as well. But again, we caution you that all of these tools are not to take the place of you as a parent. They're meant for you to enable you to have conversation. So if you see them starting to follow, let's say, a questionable celebrity, a celebrity that's kind of maybe doesn't necessarily uphold all the values that you hold, and your child just wants to follow them, that's a great moment to say, you know, you want to be careful about who you're following online, because people could see that, you know, and people could see this, they might conclude something about you that maybe you don't want them to necessarily conclude, right? So again, give it a try for those of you who are on the verge of saying yes to Instagram, or maybe it's not another year till you say yes, you know, ease them into that together, go into it together by using the supervision feature.
All right. So next week, and there was a question around Roblox here. There are settings that you could do, that you can enable to help lock down or control access to the device. And we got a little video here. It's going to play through here. As you said, you can hit the little three dots, hit accounts, settings, and security. And then basically we need to set up a PIN real quick. And what this is going to do is basically prevent them from turning things off on you. So if you want to enable it, then you would pop over to privacy and start limiting, hey, who can they talk to? Do I want them to, do I just want that they can use Roblox, but I don't want to talk to anybody? Or do I want to limit the what friends they can access, what friends they can talk to and stuff? Roblox has done a really good job, and with the content filtering and monitoring of the people in the chats. I applaud them on what they've done and trying to keep the platform as clean as possible for kids and safe. So they've done a really good job as far as monitoring it. Nothing's perfect, but they do a good job.
And I will say, for those of you who are not familiar with Roblox, Roblox is not a game. Roblox is a platform where many games can be played. People can develop games that other people can play. So it's this wonderful immersive universe. But even with all the settings that Michael just showed you, the things that it cannot do, okay, is where you need to step in as a parent. So for example, and I know some of you parents might have experienced this, even if you set all these settings so they're not talking to strangers, no one can follow them and message them and so on, they may still wander into a game where people can customize the shirt they're wearing. But then one of the players decides to use bad language on the shirt, right? That's nothing that these settings can really manage. With that, again, that's why you as a parent, you work on it with your kids, set these settings, but you still need to be involved. You don't need to be a heavy gamer, but check in on them once in a while. Have your child show you what Roblox is all about, what Minecraft is all about, why Fortnite is awesome to kids. Have them show you, and they get super excited to share that experience with you. You don't have to become an expert ever, but show some interest, and you'll be surprised at all that you'll learn and all they're willing to teach you.
All right, so the next one, and we're going to talk about Discord. Now, Discord, this is really popular if you got older kids who are into gaming. This is a very popular platform for the gamers, where they can sit and chat, share information, share files, all this stuff. It's much like using Teams or Zoom, but for gaming. Again, we can control who has access. We can actually control who they can talk to and all this stuff. Another nice key feature with Discord, as well as you can actually host your own servers and control who can have access to that server as well. And then, like you said, with it, like you see in the screens here, you can see that we can limit saying, hey, I only want server members, or I only want friends of friends, everyone. So you have a little bit of control on who they can talk to. And if you're managing that there's Discord server, or you are the owner of it, you can actually restrict and kick people off of it as well. So you can, there's some really nice features in here. Now there's also a block feature. So if there is someone that is being disrespectful or mean while online or whatever, you can actually initiate a block and block them from accessing or communicating. Granted, it's not going to change anything if they change their name or whatever, but at least you can stop that incident right there and block them.
Yeah. the thing that made Discord, if you're not familiar or didn't hear about it before tonight, um, I bet your kids have heard of it. And it became super popular beyond gamers during the pandemic because you could co-view movies together. Disney Plus and Netflix did not have that feature early on in the pandemic. So people kind of flocked to Discord because they could do that kind of thing together. Very often, I think gamers kind of hang out that way, right? On Discord, where they can watch somebody gaming, watch other people gaming, right? On
Yeah,
Discord.
I had a placement, a foster placement one time, and he would spend hours just watching people play games.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Okay.
It's like I'd rather you were playing the video game than watching someone else play a video game.
Yeah, pretty much. But
Yeah. Speaking of gaming,
yeah, speaking of gaming, so Xbox has a really cool feature in here. This is an app that can be downloaded to your device. So if you have an Xbox in the house and you want to monitor or limit basically what they can download to it or even control screen time, this app will link to your Xbox and give you that control. So it's a really nice feature that you can remotely monitor an Xbox with. Now, as far as, and I've had questions about the PS5 and stuff, these settings exist within the console, but I'm not aware of an app as of yet. I did look today and I couldn't find an app for it. So
yeah. Nope, not yet.
the settings are, there are control settings or parental controls within the console itself. You have to go into settings and set all that stuff up. But this is a really nice feature with the Xbox. I applaud Microsoft for this one.
Yep.
And then lastly is, this is our own product. This is fairly new. This is free for you to download for Android or Apple. This is a great little tool. I actually use it with my 9-year-old on a tablet. It basically allows you to lock down that device and give them only access to specific apps. Allow them to go, you can filter out specific websites as well as control screen time. So it's a really nice tool that you can deploy, and you can all control it from your, you can actually control it from your phone. So you set up yours as the parent device, and then your kid's device, you just enable the kid settings on it. And then any settings that you enable on your phone will be transferred to that tablet, and that's what they'll have access to. It's a really nice tool. Like I said, it's free. You can find it in the App Store or the Google Play Store. Next, we're going to talk about setting the rules of the what, when. So basically, what can they use? When can they use it? How long are we going to allow them? Where? And then with whom they can talk to. These are some of the rules that we're going to be talking about here shortly. Oh, this is the chart.
Oh, did you want to cover this in more detail here?
No. Go to the chart. I just drew a blank where we were.
Yeah, the only thing I would say here, I'd love to hear from all of you. When you're setting rules for your kids, having them involved in the development of rules is a really good idea, because they're more apt to stick to rules that they help to set, and that includes what the consequences are as well. Because very often as parents, we get tired. We might have had rules, but we kind of let things slide sometimes. Anyone ever do that? So have them come up with the rules, but also the consequences if they don't stick to the rules, and making sure that you're comfortable with not only what they're allowed to be using. If you're ever questioning whether a game, app, or website is okay for them, well, a lot of them have age ranges, especially apps. But if you're ever looking for a good third-party review, go to Common Sense Media. Maybe some of you know Common Sense Media. I put their website in the chat, but they do a great job of reviewing apps, games, and even movies. By the way, even if it says PG, is it okay for my kids? or PG-13. And now I think we're going to focus on the how long. How long?
Yep. Okay, so based on advice from the Center on Media and Child Health, look at screen time is one of the main things that kids do in a day. We want to encourage and guide our kids to think about all the things that they need to do in during the day to stay healthy, to learn, to care about for their family, friends, or home. How much time do they spend on those of all those things within a 24-hour period? Have them write them down, and even us write them down. We can with them write them down, and all the things that they do, and if all the things they do, how much is left over, and if any of this can be fun, can be used for fun secrets. Fun secret, Jesus, I blah blah blah. If anything can be used for fun time on screens. So basically, it's like how much time does it take to do things that support their physical health? How much time to support them as learners? So doing their homework, whatever, if they're working on science projects or doing research. How much time to support relationships? So times family, friends, how much time do they sit out playing with their friends or sitting down talking to family about things, about how their day is? And then once you've done all that, is there any time left after you're done for all these things?
Yep. And I would say that, I think thinking about screen time in a different way is really important, because if we only worry about the amount, I think we're sort of losing the story, the line, losing the bigger picture, because many of these things in the green, blue, and pink boxes are important for them. And guess what? Some of them involve screens. School certainly does, but maybe even spending time with family does, doing FaceTime with grandparents from far away. Hopefully sleep doesn't involve any screens, though. That's the one that shouldn't involve any screens. But it's okay after you talk about it with your kids and they add up all those hours. There might be a little time left over. And it's okay at that point, if they have done everything else, to use that for screens for fun. But just because that ends up being, I don't know, 4 or 6 hours, it doesn't mean 4 or 6 hours on the iPad. It doesn't mean 4 or 6 hours on the Xbox. That's where your rules and the tech tools that we've talked about previously come into play. So you can definitely, give them other options other than screens with that free time.
And then the next thing is about setting the example. Our kids watch us, they mirror us. Anything, if they see us doing things 10 to 1, they're going to start doing the same thing. So basically, let's set examples for them. It's like, okay, what rules do we have for ourselves? Do you have any rules that you set for yourself? Me personally, I have a few rules that I do have for myself. Is like, one, I do not keep my cell phone in my bedroom. And I have that rule in the house as no cell phones in the bedroom as well. And it's because I don't want the kids getting up in the middle of the night and looking at the screens. And I had one foster placement who had a device, and he would spend hours and hours just on his phone late at night, and then he was failing school. And then once we instituted that rule of eliminating that device out of the room, his grades went up and he was getting a decent night's sleep and all this other stuff. So that's why I really have these kind of rules. Or a rule like, hey, no phones at the dinner table. And God, I'm horrible at this. I've been slapped on the hand a couple times on this because I get busy with work, so I naturally bring my phone with me and start working. And I'm breaking the very rule that I'm setting. So I'm not really setting a good example here for my kids when I talk about no devices at the table. But those are just some examples of rules that I have set up. And I try my best to follow those rules as best as I can, so I can be a good example for them. And especially if I'm expecting them to follow those rules, I should be following similar, those set of rules as well.
I'd love to hear from all of you out there. What rules do you have for yourself when it comes to technology. And you know what? We're all parents here. It's okay to say if you have none. It's okay to say if you have none. But let us know in the chat, what rules do you have for yourself to with regard to technology? That's okay. I could use a few more of my own, but yes, definitely none at the dinner table. That's definitely one of mine. App timers. I'm in awe of people who put timers on their own apps for themselves. I'm in awe of all of you who do that. Good for you. You're my example. I need to follow.
Yeah, I should do the same thing. Start doing that.
Yeah. Yes, I turn off the notifications on mine too. I can't. You know, a lot of apps just want to tell you that you have a notification because they're trying to get you back there. The business models behind a lot of these apps is how many times can I get somebody keep coming back here? That's why things like streaks on Snapchat are so they're so persuasive. Why they encourage children to constantly do something with Snapchat because they're trying to make their streak last as long as possible. There's like social currency in being able to say that my streak in Snapchat, which means I've done something, posted something at least once a day, is longer than yours, right? So we have to be careful with these apps as well as with ourselves. All right. Want to take this, Michael?
Yeah, I can cover this piece of it here. Next part we're going to be talking about is protecting privacy and using privacy settings. And I did see someone mention that their kids are playing Fortnite at school. And I know a number of kids that still play Fortnite. So there are privacy settings that you can enable within Fortnite that you can set up and limit who they can play with and they can talk to, much like any other app. So this is if you go under the little three bars, privacy, and then you can set your settings. Now you'll notice one thing, it says allow friends of friends. That be aware of that one, because when you do friends of friends, you can start getting friends of friends of friends. And you start getting it's not really it can bring in people you may or may not want in that group because you don't know their friends, etc. So
this is what happens. Yeah, it happens in Facebook, right? You start seeing posts of people that you have no idea who they are, but because you've made your settings friends of friends that you can see those posts, you start seeing, right, 2-3 degrees separation away from you posts in your Facebook feed. So this is no different than this kind of setting in privacy settings.
All right. The next piece is we're going to, is this yep, this is. Going to let this go ahead and scroll through here real quick. And this is your standard user license agreement that most of our apps have. And most of us, I doubt any of us really read these things, and we just blindly click accept. And then when we click accept, we are basically allowing Instagram to use our information any way that they want forever. Just leave it like that. Mm-hmm. So when we click accept, we're basically saying, hey, we're giving Instagram full permission, even though we think, hey, this is a private post, this is only between me and my family or me and my friends. Instagram has access to it. This is how they make their money. Facebook, Snapchat, this is how they make their money. They make money on our data, so they can basically send us advertisements, and that's their money. That's what the reason why they do it is.
Yes, and that's why when we tell kids, here's the thing about privacy on the internet: use privacy settings because it will limit people you don't know, strangers, from seeing what you're doing and who you're connected to. But when it comes to the company whose app we're using, there is zero privacy between you and them. They're collecting all kinds of data about us. Apple phones, the amount of information Apple tracks, They know how many times we pick it up in a day. They know how long we've been holding it. It's just amazing how much data they're collecting. So privacy settings help us with strangers, but they do nothing between us and the company whose app or device we are using, which is why. That's why you assume nothing you ever do online is really private at the end of the day. Kids actually get really incensed by this, by the way. When we used to go into classrooms and do these sessions before the pandemic, this was a fantastic conversation we would have about what it truly means to be a free app.
All right, so next thing we're going to talk about is basically protecting our information. There are a number of ways that hackers, threat actors, whatever you want to call them, cyber criminals go out and get our data. They aren't necessarily targeting our kids. They are just looking and targeting that information because that information is money to them. This is how they make their money. This is how they make their living, is getting that information and reselling it. There are, just be aware of basically poison search results. Search, you'll do a search and then you get some random link and you think it's related, but it's just a link that you can click on. It'll take you into a page, attempt to try to gather information. The free offers that you see pop up, usually if it's too good to be true, it probably isn't. So just be aware of that. So like anybody offering, hey, free iPad, click here. Or kids fall into this a lot of times, and even older adults. I've had a couple times when I've been talking to an older adult, and they see this, they get this picture, and it's like, oh, and they'll click on it, and they get, and then suddenly they're in this page of I don't know what they're getting into, or they're asking such special private questions. So just be aware of, this. If it's too good to be true, it's probably not. The same thing with the false links, the fake social media posts. These are clickbait. These things are designed to get you to click on it because it's an area of interest. So it's like, hey, like this is in this example, they said Lady Gaga found dead in a hotel room. Well, if you're a fan, that's going to draw you right away, and you're going to want to click on it. So be aware of the link that you're clicking on before you go ahead and click the link. And same thing with high interest content. So a lot of times when whatever the newest game is, whatever the newest app out there is, they're going to start seeing pop-ups from these people trying to get them to click on it, to get them into their site so they can start gathering information.
Michael, I realize there's two new ones that I think we have to include on this slide. So I want to mention it to everyone now here. You could become victim of this. Your children could too. The first one is just straight up scams through text messaging. Okay. I don't know how many people out there are getting really crazy amounts of text messages now, which clearly look to be fraudulent or scams. We know these to be on the rise. We are studying those and researching them very closely. We actually have a tool where you can report those suspicious text messages to us, and we'll let you know back if the link in them is okay or not. Sometimes they're coming from FedEx. You have a package, right? You might not remember that you did some online shopping, so you think, oh, I must have a package coming. UPS says I have a package coming. Amazon scams and so on. So we want you to be careful of text messaging scams. So your kids might get them or you might get them. The second, I really hate the word, but it's called quishing. What is that? It is QR codes that are actually leading you to malicious websites. So QR codes are everywhere now. You go to a restaurant, no one gives out menus anymore. You just scan the QR code and up comes the menu on your phone, right? But cyber criminals are starting to inject a malicious URL instead of the one you should be going to after you scan the QR code. So one thing we would recommend, we actually have a free one. There's others out there. We have a free QR code scanner where you use that instead of just your camera app, because usually you just point your camera and scan it, right? But I think this is going to be on the rise. So we just want to make sure you and your kids are aware of it. Yeah, people call it quishing now, QR code phishing, quishing. What a weird word, right?
Yep, sorry about that. All
Actually, you
right.
know what? Yeah, you were on our last poll here.
Yeah, this is our last poll. So, do any of your kids have their own cell phone? That's going to be basically a yes, no, not yet, but soon, not for a few more years. I'm definitely
Yeah,
in the realm, especially with a 9-year-old, not for a few more years.
yeah. I'm thinking this is going to be a equal battle between yes and no's.
Yeah.
I count B, C, and D all as no, and A is yes. And I'm going to guess we might be just based on the conversation and we're seeing in the chat. Maybe the no's will win just because I think there's a lot more um, younger kids, parents of younger kids on here. So, all right, let's end the poll. Let's see where we are. Give it another second and end. All right, here we are. So 38% of you said yes, and the rest of you said no, but we all know at some point you're going to say yes. So this is just a snapshot in time. Eventually, we all say yes, right? So there's a couple things that we want to talk about with regard to the phone, and this leads us also into a conversation about social media. But there's some important things about the phone. One, we just talked about quishing. Make sure if your kids, I think the future is QR codes, obviously. It's much easier to just scan. If any of you watched the Super Bowl and you saw sort of that ode to the game Pong with the QR code that was bouncing around the television screen, millions of people grabbed their phone and just held it right up to the TV to scan whatever that QR code was, not even thinking that someone could have hacked that and sent us all to like some malicious website. Thank goodness that wasn't the case. We have to condition ourselves to think, use that camera wisely. Now that's one way. The second is that when you have a camera on your phone, when you buy a phone for the first time, the camera actually by default is tracking the location that you took all of the pictures you take. So every photo we take on the phone has metadata attached to it. It collects the time you took it, the date you took it, the kind of camera in your phone. It also includes the latitude and longitude where on this earth you took the photo. So if you then take a picture, post it up on social media, even if a child does it and says, I'm in my room, and they have not removed location services from the camera, someone could find out exactly where you live. So my recommendation, if you don't like how that feels, go into your phones right now and turn off location services for the camera. Now, there are reasons to have it on. I won't get into that now, but most people, when I tell them that, are not comfortable with the fact that all of that data is attached to every photo I've ever taken. Now, unfortunately, if you do a lot of posting on Facebook, whatever's out there is out there. So you're not going to be able to kind of undo that. But from this point forward, if you don't like that fact, then go in, turn off location, and now all of your photos will no longer have at least location attached to it. The last thing about the camera that I think is really important for those of you, even if you've already given your child a phone, and definitely for those of you who someday will give your child a phone, please have the conversation about the camera. And they should have fun with it. And they should take pictures of their friends, group selfies. You know, it's amazing to watch young people who get their phones for the first time. It's like, yeah, in a candy store. Just go, you know, they just can't stop. They're so obsessed. Eventually fades away, I will say. But we know for a fact that there has been a rise in images of young people that they're taking of themselves that they would not want the whole entire world to see. I think you all know what I'm talking about. I don't know if other people's kids are listening, so I'll be careful with the language that I use. But remind your children that they should never feel pressured by anybody no matter how much they like them, to take an image like that and certainly not send it to anyone. And certainly not if it's a stranger. A few things that we know is during the pandemic, the increase in self-produced images like this, as well as videos, were at an all-time high. Hopefully, as things sort of level out, that won't continue. Um, but you know, a lot of kids feel culturally like that's how I show somebody that I like them. I send them a picture like that, right? We have to remember all of the things that we talked about before, right? Just the act of taking the photo puts them at risk. Because if you're backing up your data automatically to the cloud, let's say to iCloud or to Google Cloud, already there's another copy out there, even if they never sent it to anyone. If they lose their phone, then someone could get a hold of the image there. So please encourage your children to have fun with that camera, but not ever feel pressured to take images like that. And about 8, 9 years ago, I was asked by a father in a big room of parents, and I was doing a session at the time, and he said, you know, my kid's a really good kid. He is well liked by a lot of people, doesn't cause trouble. But what happens if someone sends him one of those pictures and he didn't ask for it? You know, the phone bill is in my name. What should I do? So this is another part of the conversation you should have with your kids, and that is this. If they ever receive an image like that of a classmate, someone underage, maybe it's someone they don't know, even if it's anything that's disturbing. Again, we cannot stress enough why having constant conversations without judgment, make sure your child can come to you, especially on something like that, when the phone bill is in your name and no one really knows who it really went to necessarily. Because you have no idea who else got that picture. And if there's an investigation, they're going to know that that image went from this IP address, this device, to this other one. They're going to know. So by you not taking action and not saying anything, it doesn't necessarily bode well for either of you. So have your child come to you if that happens, and then delete it. You do not want to you don't want to take such pictures, be in possession of them, or distribute them, because all three of them are technically a felony when it comes to underage children, underage people. But you want to take action. And then if you feel comfortable, you happen to know the child who sent it, you know their parents, if you feel okay about it, you can approach them about it and let them know what happened. If you don't, which most people don't, report it somewhere. You can either report it to the school that has taken place, or to your local authorities. But do take some action, again, because if an investigation happens, at least you have done your part. Okay. Let's move on to gaming. And basically, Michael had talked a lot about, the apps you can use to make sure your kids aren't overusing games. But anyone have a kid who struggles to stop playing the game even after you said 5 more minutes, 10 more minutes? Anyone have a kid like that? One thing yeah, there you go. Jessica does. 2 more people raise their hand. Yeah, we know a lot of them. So, certainly think about using some of the tools that we talked about that can help you with time management of those. Also, use Common Sense Media, or do, any kind of research online. The ESRB has great resources as well. That's the Electronic Software Ratings Board. They're the people who give video games their age ranges. And think about using games that are timed. The one reason that people love Fortnite Battle Royale is because last person standing ends the game, right? Last person standing ends the game. You have FIFA, NBA 2K, you've got, Madden, NFL hockey, those games, anything with sports, the time ends. Unfortunately, Minecraft has great benefits, but there's no end. It can go on and on and on and on, right? So yes, I too, Tanya, am a fan of Wordle. Yep, I will not say what the word was today, but I got that in 3 tries today. I was lucky. Um, yeah, if only games were like that, right? If only games for kids were like that, where you could only play once and then it's over and you have to wait till the next day. It's a great concept for sure. Um, so that's something that we recommend you consider for kids who kind of struggle to break away from the game. All right. On being kind, and we're almost at the end here, so we're going to go a little faster now as we wrap up. A couple things with kindness that we just want to make a point of on the online world, because at the age of very, very young ages, we teach our kids, you should be nice to everybody else. Say please, say thank you. You don't push people over. You share your toys and so on. They hear it when they enter kindergarten. What does it mean to be a good classmate and so on? So we should continue that in online spaces, especially when you think you're anonymous and you might feel more emboldened to say something or do something that you wouldn't in front of that person face to face. So do it because it's the right thing to do, but for all of the reasons we talked about already. Nothing's really private. Everything we search, click on, download, watch, like, follow, every single act we take online is being recorded and is a reflection of who we are. So we need to have that conversation with our kids. And by the way, being nice isn't just about saying nice things to somebody. It's all about respecting differences. Now, some of you in the chat tonight have made decisions about when you will allow your child to have a phone. And yes, I've been asked many times, Lynette, how old before I could give my kid a phone, right? Everybody wants that magic age and answer. I wish I had that for you. It's really up to you and your family and your needs. We chose to do it the minute our kids entered middle school because they were going to be taking a bus further away from home and walking a distance and home alone for a short period of time before somebody was home. And so for us, it was a reason to do it. We went with a prepaid Go phone, very not many features at all, and a limited number of phone numbers. And as they met people, they would ask us, can I add this person's number to my address book? Oh, who is that person? Oh, new person you met in middle school. Great. Again, any moments that can encourage conversation are good moments. But respect means that if your child does have a phone and their friend does not, we as parents need to make sure we are inclusive. They are acting inclusively. And what you often see in middle school is a whole bunch of kids have phones already. They start texting. They're not allowed to use social media yet, but they're texting, creating group texts. They're having fun with emojis. But then there's 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 kids who are left out because they don't have that phone yet. So we need to remind our kids, if you're, having plans or you're making inside jokes, find ways to be inclusive of those who don't yet have a phone. The same goes with whether they're allowed to watch a PG-13 movie yet or not, or wear makeup or start dating or whatever. Technology is no different. It is one of those other challenges that we as parents have to help our children sort of transition through. It means respecting their privacy. So how many of you ever had someone else put a photo on Facebook with you in it or your kids in it and they didn't tell you or didn't ask you? Has that ever happened to you? This is actually another thing that can cause a lot of drama in middle school, when kids start taking the group selfies and somebody really likes how they look at it in it, but other people think, I don't like that picture, I don't look that good, but they look good, which is why they posted it, right? So one way that we can help our kids avoid those moments is, look, make a good habit of this. If you take a group picture, show it to everybody. You guys okay? You all okay if I post this? Yeah, yeah, great. Do that with small groups of friends. Do that yourself with your friends and have your children hear you doing that. Because they will, again, as Michael said, mimic what we do, the example we set. And with regard to kindness being directed inward, I had mentioned earlier that social media, the research is showing it can really be a cause of a source of great comfort, but it can also be a source of anxiety for kids and for us. How does it make you feel when you post something on Facebook and people like it? People comment on it. How does that make you feel? Let me know in the chat. It makes you feel pretty good. It makes you feel pretty validated. And when you're a kid, everything you feel is amplified, right? So why wouldn't you keep wanting to go back to that feeling? Why would this explains a lot why kids do get so obsessed with social media, do want to post things all the time, because they're getting confirmation from others liking their posts and and saying you look great and so on in your posts. So we've got to remind our children that their value is not equal to the number of likes, followers, shares, or comments they're getting on social media. They're worth so much more than that. And they can get into a dangerous game of comparison. Why did that person get more likes than me? Why does that person have more followers than me? Okay, that is up to us as parents to reinforce this with our children. They are worth much more than that. So ways that we can nurture kindness for our children is to be supportive. When something goes wrong, be there, the open door without judgment. I also challenge you to be prepared with the answers to 2 questions. Hopefully you will never need the answers. The questions are, what would you do if your child was bullied online? What would you do? And the other question is, what would you do if your child was the one bullying someone else, being unkind to others online? There are some great resources from the Cyberbullying Research Center that we highly recommend. We'll show you our website in a minute where you can find many resources. But this gives you some good ideas of how you would answer that question, how either of those questions. But be prepared as parents. Don't be surprised. Hopefully you will never have to turn to the answers, but be prepared. And when you do see people doing good things online, being kind to each other online, share those stories with your kids so they know that not everything on the internet is hateful and dangerous and unsavory. Show them that there's good things happening all the time too. They just don't get the spotlight as much as they should. I'm going to bring it home with being savvy. And I'm going to ask, just real quickly, say that it's really important. I think our kids are pretty savvy on this point, which is it's really hard to tell what you can truly trust or not online. It's very easy for someone to take a picture and open up an account on social media and pretend to be them, otherwise known as a catfish or a bot. So, if you're not sure if that's a real person, do a reverse image search of the picture in the profile and see if that image has been used elsewhere before. Other signs that an account might not be real: they never post photos of themselves. They never do anything other than reshare other people's posts. Those are the kinds of accounts that you should be really sort of suspicious about. Maybe ignore them, maybe even block them. And teach your children to be wary of that too, especially in those moments when you finally say yes to social media, you know, whose friend requests are they accepting on Instagram or Snapchat, for example. Um, and it's also hard to know that, you know, what information we can truly trust anymore online. Misinformation, disinformation, these are words that we didn't use much until recent history. But it's very easy for us to get confused maybe about what can be trusted and what not. So I won't go through all of the points here, but the skill to teach our children is, if you read a headline or see a video or an image that causes you to feel a really strong emotion, that is a red flag. At best, it's clickbait. At worst, it's truly trying to manipulate you in some way, either to give up personal information, believe in something that absolutely has no basis in truth, or so on. And once they pause, there are questions that you can teach them to ask themselves of whether or not this is credible, a credible video, a credible story, or so on. We actually partnered with the National Association for Media Literacy Education to come up with a parent's guide. And it goes through different scenarios that your child might come home with. Hey, I read this thing. Oh, really? You know, where did you see it? And so it goes through many examples of conversations that might happen between a parent and a child, and how you can help them to start practicing good media literacy skills, asking the right questions, digging in to find out the truth. Have any of you, I'm going to see if you're still awake out there, have any of you ever looked up your own name on Google? And if so, what did you find? What did you find? I found people who share my name, but one of them has a beautiful business out in San Diego. Another one you can write in jail. Neither of those people are me. Those are my cyber twins. When I look myself up online, I've also found things about me. And because of my work, I do writing, I do public speaking. I found those things out there on the internet, and that's okay, right? So here's the reason why I bring this up. This is actually something, a habit you might want to talk to your children about. Okay. Number one, if you look yourself up and you find your cyber twin, you should know they exist. Because if you ever get to a point where you're applying for a job, or maybe college someday, you want to be able to explain, if someone looks you up and they found out something kind of strange about you, that's not in fact you. You can explain that away. You know, you should know who your cyber twins are if you can. But you also might find things out there you're not comfortable with. Okay, so just so you know, Google just last month, this is new, Michael, I'm going to share this. They actually launched a new feature where you can scrub things that are found by them about you or your children, images of your children being found on Google search that you don't want there anymore. There's actually a way to have that removed by Google. That
That's
means
awesome.
yeah, it's removed by the search engine, but it doesn't remove it from the internet. It just won't be found on Google search, right? You would still need to go to the source of where it's being posted to truly remove it from the internet, but we know most people use Google, right? So, but you can have those things removed from the internet, especially of your kids. But the reason we also bring this up is because, oh, by the way, there's a way to do this without having to type your name in every once in a while. You can just set up an alert. Go to google.com/alerts, and you can enter a name, a phrase. I use this for work because I'm constantly doing research. I want to know when news stories about things come up. Here we're showing you an example of typing in trend micro. So anytime it happens, I want to get an email automatically that it's out there. And the thing is, you can get the emails daily, weekly. It's up to you how frequently you want to get them. You just have to have a Google account to set this, okay? But there's another reason why. And the reason is this number right here. This number comes from the Kaplan Institute. They are the people who developed a lot of the material to help your children prepare for things like the standardized tests like the PSATs, SATs, and so on. But they started asking college admissions officers across the country in, I think, 8 years ago, maybe now, and every year since. And one of the questions they asked them was, beyond the application that the student sends in, would you look them up on the internet? And the first year they asked this, 25% said yes. The next year, 30. And it just kept going up until the most recent study published this past February, when 66% said, yes, I would look if I needed to. And of the ones who actually did end up looking kids up, 57% found something that wasn't really beneficial to the student. It actually convinced them this is probably not the student for us. But 38%, almost 40%, found something that did convince them. Yes, this is the kind of person we want at our school. So the reason that we talk about this is because up until now, we've talked about how to protect yourself, how to hide the things that you do, how to make sure that strangers don't see that you're using, technology in good ways, right? What we haven't talked about yet, though, was what do we want our kids to be doing that we wouldn't mind the world seeing? That someone like a prospective employer or a college or a university might benefit from seeing, where they might benefit from having them see it. And that is why we want to make sure that when you talk to your kids about uses of technology, please remember to encourage the good things, the good ways in which they can use the internet, like learning new skills or promoting causes that they care about, raising money for an organization through social media, let's say, or an email campaign even. These are all positive uses of technology. They can also start to use certain kinds of apps and sites if they have a particular skill or something that they are really interested in, to accumulate those accomplishments. Maybe they're a writer. They could start a blog. Even when they're young, keep it behind a password. You don't need to show the world till later on when they're ready. If they're a student athlete, there's I think Huddle is one of those apps. You can start to collect highlight reels, artists, performers, all kinds of things, like a YouTube channel.
I got a perfect example of where this
Yeah.
actually can play. My nephew, he is a phenomenal artist, and he basically started posting his artwork on sites that he's, started finding these sites where he can share his artwork. And those sharings got him into where he was starting to do freelance work. And then that freelance work turned into a full-fledged career as a graphic artist doing artwork for music bands now. He has a full career just from posting this is a perfect example of showcasing his skills. And they just call him out of the blue and said, you want a job? And he has a full clear career just based on this thing. So it's a perfect example of it.
Absolutely, yeah. And I've been trying to encourage somebody I know to turn their art into an NFT and make some money that way too. So there are great uses. We're big fans of contests, actually. All kinds of contests out there for young people. Contests for, spoken word, art, writing, all kinds of things, because contests also teach them other skills. They teach them how to stick to a deadline, how to stay within rules. They experience having their work critiqued by others. They may not win. That's okay. You can start to accumulate all the entries as part of a portfolio. It's a great thing, a great positive use of the internet. So we just want to make sure that of all the things we've talked about, that we balance also showing kids and encouraging kids the ways in which they should be using technology beyond just watching baby kittens and playing Minecraft all day, right? So again, as we wrap it up, we want to just remind you of these concepts of being online, being safe, being kind, and being savvy, but also to let you know that in October of last year, we launched our Kids Cyber Academy. And this is something you could do with your kids after today, particularly in that sort of 9, 10, 11-year-old range. It's actually, you should try it yourself as adults. And these are short animated videos on each topic, coupled with a Kahoot quiz to reinforce that learning, and an activity sheet as well if you want to do that, and a conversation guide for you as parents so you can talk to them about the importance of privacy and security and using the camera wisely and so on. So we'd love for you to take advantage of that. And this is our website where a lot of the resources that we talked about today you can find. They're in multiple languages. I think the Cyber Academy is in 8 languages. Many of our parent tip sheets are in multiple languages as well. We're still working on translating a lot of them. And this is the site from PTO Today, where they also have a number of great resources as well. So stay active as parents. You came tonight, but this doesn't end it. Raising digital citizens is an ongoing good habit for parents. One of the things it involves is constant communication with your kids, but also with other parents. Learn about what they're seeing and what they're experiencing as well. And do follow us, stay up to date, keep in touch. We will be hosting another series of these talks. Our talks will change again in the next school year. So we'd love to have you come back and host us again, because what you saw today is going to be different the next time around. So stay up to date. And we have a favor to ask. Do one new thing that you had not done before tonight. Maybe it's to change maybe separate your network on the router. Maybe it's to set up a Google alert on your kids' names. Do something you had not done before tonight. Do we have any other questions left? It looks like you've answered a lot of them, Michael.
Right now, there are no pending questions.
Okay, fantastic. Are there any? I don't think there were. There might have been some in the. Oh, where is the survey? Good question. It should launch for you when you leave this session, but I'm going to post the link in the chat anyway. And just in case. And again, this session is being recorded. So if you would like a copy of it, if you know somebody who missed tonight's session, we are hosting one more event next week. It's our last one of the school year next week. We also support American Sign Language at some of our events. We support multiple languages, not just Spanish and Portuguese on demand. So we have done multiple language options in the past as well. So we're so happy that you could spend this evening with us. Thank you for your patience. We had a lot to get through. We hope it was super helpful. If you leave feedback for us and you include your email address, you might be one of 5 people to win a copy of Trend Micro Maximum Security. This is security software to protect up to 5 devices in your home for a year, including cell phones. Yes, including cell phones. And I think that's it from us. I'd like to thank Oh, actually, this is incorrect. It's not Marcela, it's Gigi. Gigi Margarita is our Spanish interpreter this evening, and Camila Pol is our uh, interpreter for Portuguese. Thank you, Gigi and Camilla. Thank you, Michael. This was great. I think this was the last one we're doing together this year.
Oh, I'm bummed. Ah,
So again, not until 2022, 2023.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yes, I can't wait. It's going to be fun. I hope many of you can join us again.